Radio.com. And now here is the host of the show, Eddy Crow.
I know. A couple minutes later than usual. There were some technical issues that needed to be sorted out, and Frank Sparks sorted them out fabulously. And because Frank did such a glorious job, David, I think you would be applauding like I would at Frank's.
Yes, absolutely. Frank is the savior of the day.
Competence.
Well, that's...
relative competence.
Oh, okay, relative. Okay.
Because of everything that Frank was just doing over the shoulder there at 14 minutes after 9. This is going to be on the live Facebook. If you want to watch it, Frank's the reason that you're able to do that. I mean, you, I suspect, will want to watch it if you can. My guest this first hour, district attorney from Beaver County. Often, how many times a year do you think you come and deal with us?
Probably about every other month.
Okay.
Something like that.
We're okay?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I've no objections. It's always a good time, Eddie.
Okay. See, that's the precursor. First things first. The most recent story I saw that had your name on it involved brass knuckles.
Yes.
That's quaint almost anymore. As a DA, when you see somebody had brass knuckles, don't you think, oh, that's really old school? Walk me through the Biker Brass Knuckle Hotel. They're all from West Virginia, but staying somewhere over here.
Right.
Incidents, okay, I can say that?
Yes.
David Lozier, District Attorney of Beaver County, explaining what happened at that hotel. Go.
What happened was...
Allegedly.
Yeah. We have filed charges, but they're innocent until proven otherwise.
Yeah.
But there was a group of bikers staying at the hotel out in Big Beaver at the Ramada. We don't know why they were there. Rumor had it they were coming from Cleveland for some biker event.
Excuse me. How many other hotel options are there in Big Beaver?
I think there are 4 hotels in Beaver.
So you do have to specify.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
And this was at the Ramada.
But this is the only one large enough to have 32 rooms full of pagan bikers.
32 rooms.
With pagan bikers, yes. There were probably more rooms full of pagans. They were coming from some event we think up around in Cleveland.
Okay, so they were probably headed back home. It got dark.
Right on a Sunday.
That was their stop.
Right, they came in from some event up in Cleveland, maybe Friday or Saturday, coming back through our county, and they had booked these rooms in advance. So we had 32 rooms booked.
How many pagan bikers do you think carry a credit card to book a hotel?
We searched them for firearms. We did not search them for credit cards.
Okay.
But at least a dozen had credit cards because a dozen different members of the pagan gang booked these different rooms, booked the 32 rooms. Or at least a dozen of them had a legitimate credit card.
Okay. Where did it go? Where did it go sideways? Because so far it just sounds like a bunch of dudes on a road trip.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And they stayed in the hotel, and some of them were in the bar that evening. And sometime, I'm going to say around 1 o'clock in the morning, 1:30 in the morning, there was an individual from Beaver County came in from another local event, was unrelated to the bikers. And he came into the bar to have a drink. And he got into a discussion with a member of the pagans. And the pagan took offense. So when this individual walked out to the parking lot to get in his vehicle, he was followed by a large number of bikers wearing all their various regalia.
Sure.
And they proceeded to boot stomp him and beat him with brass knuckles and told him to get in his truck and get out of there. Well, he went and moved his truck, and I think he had to come back to get something or someone. So he came back towards the hotel, and they beat him a second time. But this time he came with his own firearm. So they boot stomped him and beat him with brass knuckles, and they did a lot of damage to this young man, and they put a gun to his head and took his firearm. So at that point, we get involved because it's aggravated assault, theft of a weapon. That's now robbery, which is another felony. So we ended up with a video at the hotel. We had an idea of who these people, they were all pagans, all in their various regalia.
Well, you said they were all wearing their colors, as they say.
They call them cuts.
Is that it? Okay.
Yes, they call them their cuts.
Right.
So We were able to identify 32 hotel rooms where these individuals who had committed the assault and robbery could be staying. So we got it. So first of all, Beaver Falls Police Department and the state police responded for the aggravated assault and the robbery. They realized that this could be a very dangerous event because you have a number of people, and an unknown number of bikers in the hotel with at least 2 firearms and brass knuckles, and they have hostile intent.
And it's unfair to assume, but if there are 39 bikers or 22 rooms of bikers, most people would assume that there's probably going to be weapons there.
Yes.
Okay.
So we took that into account.
You assume that as a law enforcement official anyway,
Yes.
every time.
Right. I think that's a fair stereotype.
Yeah.
It turned out to be true.
Okay.
So we obtained a search warrant for the 32 rooms that we knew had been booked by the bikers, and we brought in 2 SWAT teams. We had our ESU from Beaver County. We also brought in a SWAT team from Washington County because, again, we did not know what we were really getting into. So we went room to room, and we had, I'm going to say, at least a dozen state troopers. We had multiple law enforcement agencies and the 2 SWAT teams. And we went room to room, and we cleared out these rooms of the individuals who were bikers, and we detained them temporarily in the ballroom of the hotel.
Did they? I'm assuming they knew you were coming. Did you just knock on the door and say, "Come with me," and they said, "Okay"?
Some of them were not polite. Some of them refused to open the door, so we had to make a couple of forced entries. But we ended up detaining 69 members of the pagan gang in the ballroom. And then we went back and we searched those 32 rooms looking for, we also photographed them because we had to be able to show them in a lineup to the individual who had been assaulted. So we then went through the rooms looking for the brass knuckles and firearms. And we, in fact, found a total of 26 firearms in the 32 hotel rooms. We ran all those through the database. Only one of them was, in fact, a stolen firearm. So that individual with that firearm was arrested for possession of the stolen firearm. And then among those 69 bikers who we pulled out of the hotel rooms, we were able to identify 4 of them as being involved in the aggravated assault.
Where the victim said, definitely, 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 definitely.
We had the individual identify them, plus we had the video from the hotel. So between those 2 sources, we put 4 in custody. They're still in the Beaver County Jail because they're not from our county, so there's a flight risk. So they're in jail with high bond, and their judge will sort out that situation.
How long do they have to be in jail before it gets sorted out? And what you say sorted out, would that be bond and allow them to go back home? Because none of them were from PA.
That's right.
Okay.
None of the individuals whom we arrested were from PA. They were from Maryland and West Virginia. The bulk of the bikers were from Southern Ohio and West Virginia, and also Kentucky, and a couple from Maryland. But there'll be a judge now who will schedule a hearing for a bond hearing, and he'll address the bond issue because everyone has a right to affordable bond depending on public safety. Or maybe conditions to assure that they'll come back for their hearing. The hearing is currently scheduled for September 8th.
Would you expect that to be a problem? That a bigger problem than you would expect from any other case, that somebody would go and not come back?
Well, we're concerned here because it's an aggravated assault of one of our local residents, and there was a firearm involved. So I think there's a high risk.
David Lozier is my guest. He is the district attorney for Beaver County. Is that one of the weirder situations that you've rolled up on there? It sounded like that could be a lot of first-time stuff for any DA. 69 pagan bikers in a hotel room in Big Beaver and this many guns in it. That has to be some new territory for you, doesn't it? That
got our attention for everybody there. What I want to say predominantly is the Beaver Falls Police Department did an amazing job identifying the issue, securing the scene, obtaining the search warrant, managing the search. We had, again, multiple agencies. The state troopers were also very helpful through this whole process. We had used a lot of resources to be able to handle 69 individuals in handcuffs and then search 32 rooms, following all the legal issues.
Two SWAT teams.
And two SWAT teams. And so I want to thank Washington County for sending up their team to help us out. They've been here 3 times in 6 weeks for police events.
What were the other two? Forgive me for being numb to it at this point, but I think it's the world we live in. What were the other two?
One of them was the Ambridge homicide.
Okay.
Where that young man was
on Church Street next to the library.
Yes. In that case, because we thought we had 2 suspects in an apartment building up near Duss, because we were concerned of the large nature of the area. And because we had multiple apartments that we had to search safely, we called for backup from another SWAT team. So Washington County came up for that one as well.
All right. David Lozier is my guest. More with David after the news. It's Teleforum. It's Beaver County Radio.
Beaver County Radio and the Pennsylvania Hot Rod Company are teaming up to present Cruisin' on the Ridge, a series of car cruises during our 75th summer celebration that will be held the 3rd Saturday of every month from 12 to 5 p.m. at the new Beaver County Radio Studios. The 4th cruise, featuring the music of the Hoot Owls, will be on September 16th at the new studio location of 4301 Dutch Ridge Road in Brighton Township. Beaver County Radio's Solid Gold Saturday host J.D. Merkel will also be spinning tunes in the parking lot. There will be food trucks, prize giveaways, raffles, and a 50-50. Cruisin' the Ridge is being brought to you by Patriot Home Care, Falcone's Moon Township Ford, Circle of Friends, Ambridge Italian Villa, Friendly Federal Credit Union, J&J Spratt Funeral Home, Town Square Restaurant, The Standard Restaurant, T.L. Ferguson Building and Landscaping Supply, Beaver Valley Auto Mall, LaBelle Bridal, Junction Auto, Fisher's Foodland, Al's Corner and Koppel, Wags on 3rd, J. Young Refuse, Dillon McCandless King Coulter and Graham LLC, the Pennsylvania Hot Rod Company, and Beaver County Radio.
The best of Beaver County is easy to discover. It's right here on your radio. Tune in Beaver County Radio or watch the best of Beaver County live on Facebook or YouTube video this and every Thursday from 11 to 11:30. The program is made possible by St. Barnabas. For over 3 years now, the show has been dedicated to shining light on the great things going on right here in your neighborhood and the people that are making it happen. This Thursday, enjoy conversation and insight from an intriguing lineup of guests who are creating excitement and having an impact right here in Beaver County. Your friends and neighbors at St. Barnabas are pleased to support the best of Beaver County. The radio broadcast will also be replayed each week from 11:30 to noon on Sundays on Beaver County Radio. Archived Best of Beaver County videos can be viewed on the WBVP WMBA Facebook page. It's your chance to encounter the best of Beaver County with host Mike Romai this Thursday starting at 11. For more information, visit beavercountyradio.com.
You don't have to be headed back to school or have kids or grandkids enrolling in class to still earn something at this time of year. This is Andy Dangle from Freedom United Federal Credit Union. Today's lesson is on reading. If you are thinking about buying a car or recently bought one, make sure you read the fine print on the dealer financing contract. Remember, the dealer's goal is to sell you the car and not necessarily to get you the best interest rate. Keep this simple rule in mind. Check with Freedom United before you write the check. Even if you already purchased a vehicle and the dealer financed it somewhere else, bring your paperwork into Freedom United Federal Credit Union. Refinancing and saving you money is easy and takes just a few minutes. We'll do all the work. After all, this is where the interest is in you. That concludes today's lesson on reading. Visit freedomunitedfcu.com, member NCUA, Equal Housing Lender.
Regular alignment should be done twice a year as part of your basic auto maintenance. Why? Because misaligned tire and wheel assemblies will impact your gas mileage, causing tires to wear out faster and reducing drivability. And here's the good news. For a limited time, you can drive into the Beaver Valley Auto Mall Express Lane in Monaca and save $25 on alignment service. That's $25 off the retail value of $109. Summer means you're probably driving more. Don't wait until your car is handling improperly. Getting your alignment checked twice a year can prevent unexpected tire wear and or fuel economy. Save $25 on alignment now at Beaver Valley Auto Mall. And while you're there, purchase 3 oil changes for just $165. That's just $55 per visit. Yes, an oil change for just $55 for full synthetic. Everyone's saving at the Beaver Valley Auto Mall Express Lane in Monaca. Hurry, this is a limited time offer.
Hi, folks. I'm with our good friend John Diagardi from Roe Monument. John, you were telling me earlier that people really should not rush into choosing a memorial for their loved one. Now, why is that?
We found that families need to take ample time to grieve first. Grief is not something that we get over, but rather something that we learn to live with. So the length of time to grieve varies from person to person.
You mentioned that the monument can't be placed right away.
That's right. There are certain things that need to take place before a monument can be installed. So it's really worth taking time to think about how to plan and design a memorial that truly reflects a person's life. It's actually a healing activity that helps to alleviate grief.
John, this makes a lot of sense.
It does. And when the time is right to proceed, not only can Roe Monument help families choose and design their memorial, we can help them save as much as 50% by eliminating the middleman.
Thank you, John. Folks, you can learn more simply by visiting RoeMonuments.com.
Beaver County Radio's news source, 95.7 and 99.3 FM, along with 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMVA, and streaming at beavercountyradio.com.
Good morning. On this Thursday, August 31st, 2023, the Beaver County weather forecast is calling for mostly sunny skies today with a high of 77 degrees and a warm, sunny weekend ahead. We'll check your Beaver County weather forecast in full following this look at news. A new partnership for education called Flourish Beaver County was formally introduced at a gathering Wednesday night at the CCBC Dome. The new partnership includes local government, law enforcement, nonprofits, teachers unions, and other groups to focus on educational opportunities and workforce development for young people and students in Beaver County. The chairperson of Flourish Beaver County is CCBC President Dr. Roger W. Davis, and during last night's announcement, he pointed to one of the major reasons that this coalition was developed.
Our county's population has steadily decreased over the last 11 years. In fact, in the last 11 years, our population has only increased 1 year. This decade-long trend has impacted every community, every neighborhood, and is especially acute among the school-age population. It has had a direct effect on the county's ability to provide equitable, high quality, and cost-effective educational opportunities for all of our students.
The full story from last night's announcement can be found at beavercountyradio.com. The president of a Pittsburgh area mineral company has been sentenced in federal court to 3 years of probation and ordered to pay $222,255.35 in restitution to the IRS and a fine of $55,000 on his conviction for filing a false income tax return, United States Attorney Eric G. Olshan announced today. U.S. District Judge Arthur Schwab imposed a sentence on 60-year-old Paul J. Austin of Pittsburgh as the sole defendant. Previously, in connection with his guilty plea, the court was advised that from 2012 through 2017, the defendant was the president of J.P. Austin Associates, Inc., a mineral processing company in Beaver Falls. For calendar years 2012 through 2017, the defendant and his spouse, who served as the company's treasurer, jointly filed annual Form 1040 federal income tax returns with the IRS. The defendant willfully made and subscribed Form 1040 returns for calendar years 2012 through 2017 that materially underreported his taxable income. Prior to sentencing, the defendant paid the $222,255.35 in restitution owed to the IRS. Beaver County Radio News correspondent Sandy Giordano reports that 2 retirements were approved by Aliquippa Council on Wednesday night. Longtime Councilman Art Paroli Jr.'s resignation was approved by Council at the work session, and he was thanked for his many years of service to the city. The retirement of Jeffrey R. McCafferty from the fire department was also accepted. McCafferty had served the fire department for 25 years. Council also approved a 1-year extension of their contract with Waste Management, and the contract will end December 31st of 2024. The country's largest locomotive manufacturer and its striking union workers have reached a tentative agreement that could end a 2-month strike that saw about 1,400 people walk off the job at its Pennsylvania plant. Pittsburgh-based Wabtec announced the agreement with Local 506 of the United Electrical, Radio, and Machine Workers of America on Wednesday. The company said it calls for wage increases, improves the grievance process, and provides other benefits, but it didn't disclose specific details. The tentative agreement also maintains a two-tier wage system at the Erie plant that allows the company to pay new hires less money. The company says a vote on ratification is expected Thursday. Pennsylvania's Republican-controlled Senate returned for an unusual August session mired in a 2-month budget stalemate with the Democratic-controlled House. 2 budget-related bills passed Wednesday primarily on party lines, as Senate Republicans advanced provisions that have bipartisan support and others that do not. Neither bill has the agreement of House Democratic leaders. The House is not scheduled to reconvene until after a September 19th special election that is expected to restore the chamber's 1-seat Democratic majority. Some programs were left without legislation on how to distribute funds after a fight over creating a $100 million program to send students to private schools.
Here's the Beaver County forecast on 95.7 and 99.3 FM, along with 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, and streaming at beavercountyradio.com.
Mostly sunny skies today with a high of 77 degrees. Cool and clear tonight with a low of 54. Sunny tomorrow with a high of 79. Mostly sunny Saturday with a high of 84. Sunny for your Sunday and a high of 88 degrees. And partly cloudy on Monday with a high of 91. That's a look at the news for now. I'm Matt Durzik for Beaver County Radio News. 95.7 FM, 99.3 FM, 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, and streaming worldwide at beavercountyradio.com.
Where the listeners of Beaver County have a voice. Teleforum with Eddy Crow, 724-843-1888, 724-774-1888.
I'm very much enjoying the first hour of Teleforum this morning, more so than usual. Friend of the show, David Lozier, Beaver County District Attorney David Lozier is my guest. And let's go ahead, and I'm going to put it as delicately as I can, but I want to talk about the Del Tondo case.
Sure.
How would I ask you what first question? What changed in the last year? Why now?
It's not so much that it changed, it's that it hasn't changed.
Okay.
When the 5th year anniversary approached, the 5th year anniversary of her murder and her 2018 murder, we got a lot of press inquiries back in April and May to go on TV and do all these interviews.
To say it's been 5 years, what's up?
That's right. And I did not want to do that in May to the family. And then we also had a very busy office at that time. June and May were very busy with trials and other aspects, and I didn't want to distract from good work in the office. We had a number of trials involving sexual assaults, and those needed the priority. As you may recall, we had several press releases about some jury trials and convictions regarding special victims. We had another one yesterday, right? But the priority needs to be those victims and victims generally. So when the 5th year anniversary passed and things sort of lightened up, then I made an arrangement to do that interview. But then we had two homicides back-to-back, actually 3 homicides back-to-back.
The Saturday night Aliquippa, Sunday morning Ambridge, or Sunday afternoon Ambridge.
And then the week before that, we had the murder in New Sewickley. So we had a series of homicides. So we put off the interview because, again, we're dealing with murders and victims, and we didn't want to step on what was going on there. But I promised an interview, and I wanted to make sure that the family understood what we were doing. So I had my detectives who had managed the investigation go out and meet with the family to make sure that they were good with this.
Beforehand,
to make sure that we explained to them what they explained, the status of the case, everything we've done, the hard work we've done, the fact that we have reached a point where we need help from the outside world. We have spent 5 years using every technology, every federal law enforcement agency. We've pressed witnesses who we knew were aware before or after. We've done everything we could. We needed help. So what I wanted to make sure was that the family knew that a lot of the conspiracy theories had been debunked. We'd spent 5 years and we'd put all those crazy conspiracy theories to bed. We ended up with one suspect, and that was, of course, Sheldon Jeter. And we wanted the family to know that we were going to be asking for a reward. And we were going to be opening up all the search warrants so that people would see what we had done, the evidence that we had. So we told the family all this in advance. And they were very pleased with that. And they told us that thank you for letting us know what was happening. And they were pleased at that point. So then we aired the interview. And then later on, they came out with a press release that disagreed and pointed fingers at me. The press release was not a happy press release. No.
And understandably.
Yeah, and that's fine because and part of it's political, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, this is an election year, but again, it's because it's the 5th year. It's not whether I mention Del Tondo or not. When I go around the county, I'm asked all the time about that case.
Still.
Whether I say something or don't say something, it's political. So we did this in a planned way to give the victims some answers, and so we can set the table for raising a reward and potentially getting some more information from someone to help us actually file charges.
What is missing from you going, okay, there's the piece, let's file charges? What is missing in this case? You may not be able to tell me. I understand that.
I've got to put him in the driveway.
You've got to put him on the scene.
I've got to put him on the scene.
Okay.
We have, as I said, I think in the press release or in the interviews, we have him stalking her before the event. We have communications, all the phones, the cars driving around. We know where he was, what he was doing beforehand, stalking her. We had the history of their relationship and stalking her. But that's not putting him in the driveway with a gun in his hand. So we're looking for someone who was there, maybe not there, but somebody who was with him before or with him after who can testify as to his actions at that moment.
What changed to go from him being, I guess, a person of interest to being officially a subject? What changed in the case? Or was it we need to move forward somehow? It's 5 years.
No, all the evidence we've pointed at. The only individual with, I'm going to say, a grudge, and again, he was stalking her at that time. We're aware of what he was doing. He was tracking the car, following her, and we had nobody else in the vicinity, nobody else close. Again, all the other conspiracy theories, we ran all those to ground. And he is the one left, and we're aware of what he was doing that night in relationship to her. I've got to put him in that driveway. And at this time, I do not have the evidence to do that. So no charges have been filed. But he's a suspect.
What happens to if he's charged? He's currently in prison for murder right now, correct?
Yes, for killing his cousin.
How does that work, paperwork-wise?
It's no different. We would file a criminal complaint,
okay,
serve it on him in prison at the state prison. He would be transferred from the state prison back to the Beaver County Jail, and he'd go through the normal court processes.
I'm going to say something that was said to me, and I want you to respond to it. What's the point? He's already in prison.
Because we have victims. We have a victim who is deserving of respect, and a family and a community deserving of an answer. So it's a matter of if we develop that level of evidence beyond a reasonable doubt, we will file charges even though he's already in prison. If he ends up being the individual, he's already in prison for life, but the victim deserves it.
David Lozier is my guest. David is the district attorney of Beaver County. When you look back and the family and the press release that they issued, what would you do differently? Would you do anything differently during that process?
Not really.
No?
I tend to make a decision and then accept the repercussions because I can't control other people's actions or other people's motivations. We evaluated the circumstances, and we made a commitment to do a press release to start the process of building towards getting the public support through a reward. And I'm not going to say that I was wrong. I think it was the right thing to do for the family, even if they haven't said so.
What is the next step you say the process getting a reward?
Yes, what we do.
Is that donations? Is that law enforcement? How does that work? Because let me back up a second. I'm sorry. Do you think a reward will help now? Because it's been 5 years.
I think it will.
Okay.
If there's anyone who is concerned about about their own personal safety, he is in prison. So anyone who is hesitant doesn't have that need to be hesitant anymore. So I would like to think that a reward would further, I don't know. We're hoping for something.
How much?
I don't know. We have several organizations in Beaver County who offer rewards. We have Crime Solvers, we have Crime Stoppers, and there are also some private agencies.
Okay.
But at this point, the first thing I want to do is we will begin unsealing all the search warrants, showing what we've asked for, the evidence.
How many search warrants is that? In a murder case, I can't believe it's one or two.
No, there are a fair number of them.
Okay.
Yeah. So they start coming open. We have sealed orders. We've sealed them since about a week after the homicide. All the search warrants have been sealed to protect individuals.
Okay. When will that happen? When will those become unsealed?
That starts in about 2 weeks. And
are they all unsealed at once, or is it going to come out a little at a time?
It's as the orders expire, because we go in every month or so and renew the seal orders. So as those begin to expire, then that information can become available, and then at that point the public will have more information. I think we'll be able to get a reward.
Are there search warrant orders that aren't going to be unsealed in this process?
I'm probably not going to release things like the autopsy and things like that, because there's some information that we're going to need to retain control of, so that there's going to be certain things that only the murderer will know, and we're able to use that limited information in confirming information from an informant.
You would be giving information to everybody that right now, very few people, the people of interest are the only ones that could possibly know that?
That's right.
Is that it? Okay.
Right. So some information we would not release. Yeah.
What's the next step?
And then we would go out for reward. Yeah.
What's the next step? Putting the money out there?
Yes.
Is it?
Right.
Is there a timeline for that?
Not really. Right now, we're pretty busy.
Okay.
And again, we have a trial term coming up that starts next week, and then we have a murder trial starting immediately after the trial term. We're a very busy office right now, and again, so I don't want to step on other victims and other matters. So timing is hard.
Speaking of other matters, I did. Driving in this morning, I knew you were going to join me for the first hour. David Lozier, the district attorney for Beaver County, is my guest this first hour on Teleforum. I did want to ask you about the baseball bat bank robbery.
That was the third.
Just to hear you giggle for a second, but there it is. Okay.
Yeah, that was the third reason that the Washington SWAT team was here in a 6-week period.
Okay.
We had the Ambridge homicide. And then we had the credit union bank robbery.
The baseball bat caper.
The baseball bat.
Yeah.
And again, that was a matter of trying to find that individual before the sun went down. So again, Beaver Falls.
He was still loose for at least a couple hours, wasn't he?
I'm going to say at least 3 hours.
Okay.
He was.
I remember the story, and they were still looking, and here come the helicopters over my house. And
well, one of them was a news station.
Of course it was.
And the other one was the state police. We also had drones. So whenever the police helicopter would leave the area to refuel or to reposition, we would launch several drones.
Camera drones? Do you have thermal imaging camera? Do you really?
Yeah, we own several, and we have access to. There's a drone company in Rochester, Pennsylvania that provides national support to law enforcement corporations. And when we have a major event, they offer their resources if available. Mm-hmm. And so they were there, and they were launching drones to help us look at a lower altitude so that we could and keep our people safe, because you don't want
walking around
a search
looking,
team walking up on the guy. He only had a baseball bat, but still, you don't know.
Maybe he forgot he had a pistol in his pocket.
You just don't know.
How did he get caught? Did the drone see him, or was he spotted on foot? Or
he was spotted by one of our search teams. We had Beaver Falls out searching. We have multiple other departments assisting, and the 2 SWAT teams in groups setting a perimeter around the lower part of West Mayfield and that corner of Beaver Falls to the north of the high school, between there and Geneva College. We had blocked off the area. There are a lot of houses. There were some warehouse buildings, a lot of storage units. So we were looking all over the place, but ultimately it was just good police work stumbled into them.
As a DA, is that the weirdest robbery weapon on your list?
No, we had
I love that the answer is no.
We had an individual who robbed a couple of convenience stores.
Okay.
I think it's probably 2017. And I think he took a pen or something and taped it onto a black handle with black tape to make it look like there was a gun in his hand. And he tried to do an armed robbery with something that wasn't a gun. He was a whacked-out drug addict who needed severe treatment.
Who needed to be off the street for his own good and everybody else's own good?
Yes, yeah, but he tried to make something that looked like a handgun that wasn't. It was pretty obvious at the time, but he was arrested and he was offered treatment, and I hope he's doing okay.
Is there a felony pen charge that you can drop if somebody's trying to... if I stab you, that's a deadly weapon, isn't it? In the eyes of the DA.
Well, the key is, did the individual who was being threatened believe that their life was in danger?
Wait a minute. So if I stab you, I can't believe if I stab the DA, if I stab you with a pen trying to kill you, and you don't believe your life is in danger?
No.
Okay, I got that backwards, didn't I?
Yeah, yes,
okay, good.
Yeah. It's what I'm saying is
right.
This guy has what he's pretending is a firearm.
Okay.
And the individual who's being robbed, does that individual think that their life is at stake and they think it's a firearm?
Now, what would happen? You're trying to rob me with a ballpoint pen.
And they're laughing at the drug addict and they chase him out of the store. Yes.
Well, but no, what happens if he's trying to rob somebody with a ballpoint pen? The person's been robbed 15 times. They're tired of it. They pull out a real gun. What happens to that person? Is that self-defense if that person believes that they were in danger?
That would be self-defense.
Okay.
But there are a lot of factors that go into and every scenario we can draw would end up with wrinkles in it. And
depends on if it's a blue or black writing pen, I'm sure.
Well,
if it's a red one, you get a felony right away.
There aren't as many firearms with a red barrel as there are with black barrels. So I would use the black pen if you're pretending.
I love talking to you. I learned so much. These are questions that I wanted to ask in my past, but it didn't seem like the appropriate time. I feel good that I've moved on enough to bring it up. What should I have asked you that I didn't ask you? I'm never going to stab you, Mr. Lozier, I promise.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I want to say today at the courthouse, I think from 10:30 to maybe 2, we have Overdose Awareness Day.
Good.
So we're going to have Narcan available. We're going to have all the various treatment providers at the courthouse. We're recognizing that we've lost over 500 people to fatal overdoses in the last 7 years in Beaver County. We have our drug take-back boxes and all those things. We have Narcan everywhere we can put it. But today is an organized event with all the treatment agencies hoping to provide support and education regarding overdoses.
I saw a story a couple of days ago, and I thought of you. It was about Narcan, and it was about availability over the counter. And is society wising up that that's not a stigma, that that's a necessity?
I think so.
Yeah.
We're aware that Narcan has been used. We average at least 600 or 700 lives a year that we save with Narcan in Beaver County. 600 or 700 overdoses that we stop.
That if that's not there, those people aren't here.
Right. So between police, and fire departments and ambulance services. Narcan has saved many, many lives. But we think we've probably saved far more because of Narcan that we've provided to people. And they're saving a life, but they're not calling the ambulance. So it's out there to save lives.
This is the Narcan that people would have in their homes knowing it's probably a good idea.
Yeah, like I have some now in my pocket.
You've got some in your pocket.
Yeah, I always carry it because I stumbled on an overdose in Beaver Falls. I've always carried it.
It's a small price to pay, that little piece of plastic with chemicals in it to save lives.
Yeah. So as we provide it for free. Pennsylvania is ahead of the nation because we have had it as an available open prescription since I think 2018 in Pennsylvania. That was one of the things that Secretary Levine did.
Does that speak well of our progressiveness and recognition, or does that speak poorly of our problem with addiction in the Commonwealth?
Pennsylvania had one of the fastest growing death rates when fentanyl hit. Beaver County was one of the fastest growing counties with overdoses based on population back in 2017, when we went from 36 a year to 102.
Wow.
In the next year. So this was across the state, but we were I think the highest county. Governor Wolf and Secretary Levine, to give them credit, they stepped up to the plate. And they increased our ability to provide drug treatment in the jail and alternate locations, and they dramatically increased the availability of Narcan and of drug take-back boxes. And we used all of those, and that's why we have drug boxes in 25 municipalities in the county, and we've provided hundreds of doses of Narcan around the county.
Next time, come back. Don't be so long between visits, would you please?
Okay, but that'll be yelled at.
Who yelled at you?
People complain about me being here. It's political, right? Whether I'm here or not is political.
Okay.
I'm answering questions.
You know what? Here, we'll solve this right now. Anybody that squawks at you about you coming on this show, you have them call me. I just turned into my dad in my front yard. If there's a problem with the neighbor kids, you just send their dads over and we'll talk about it.
Thanks, Eddie.
DA David Lozier, seriously. Come to my yard, because all bets are off once you get in the yard.
Vesuvio's Italian restaurant near the Beaver Valley Mall in Monaca not only has delicious food, a great